So I decided to make this podcast, if you will, because when I had my miscarriage, the only thing that I knew about miscarriages was what I learned in school in my biology class. So I knew the basics and how it would happen. So I had like a huge advantage knowing what's going to happen. Then my husband who did not have biology. And I think for a lot of women, they don't know. And for my students, I really would like to give them this information because it might happen to one of them, and I want them to have these tools in their toolbox to get through it because a lot of ladies and even men don't know why and how and the basics of actually like what is happening. Like Nelson Mandela said, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Just now, like, well, education, he probably was talking about like to get a degree and to finish matric, but like knowledge is power. So, the basics of like a miscarriage is the natural loss of a pregnancy before maybe the embryo or the fetus is viable, before it can maybe like live outside the womb. I think that is what is typically like taught, and usually the causes, a lot of it is like unknown, but many miscarriages are due to chromosomal abnormalities in the developing fetus or embryo. So it's usually like random, beyond anyone's control. It's not anything that the mother did or do. It was just like nature's way that the body is determining, okay, this fetus, there's maybe a mutation, a chromosome abnormality, and then probably like nutrients are not being provided, and then naturally the baby comes down or the fetus comes down. So mostly it's like that. There's no any other cause. It's not the mother's fault. It's just the fetus had abnormalities or a mutation. And actually, like a lot of times, people don't even know that um, they were actually pregnant because sometimes it might happen that a lot of time this is like a missed miscarriage or chemical pregnancy. Like if the pregnancy or the fetus or the embryo was like lost or early miscarriage before the fifth week of pregnancy. So sometimes people don't even know they were pregnant, but usually like women who's trying to conceive, who's actively testing, they would know that they were pregnant, and then like it didn't make beyond after the fifth week mark. So then that may be an early miscarriage or chemical pregnancy. So that is not like anyone's fault, but still, like the emotional impact was not so clear. I knew a lot about miscarriages, and most of it was what I learned in school when we did this in biology, not in like life skills or life science, in biology. So I knew the biology around it. I did not know the emotional impact that it has on a person's body. It is really like hectic. So even though most miscarriages are like due to a chromosomal abnormality in the fetus, like sometimes when it happens, you're like not sure, is it your fault that it happened? Um, because sometimes it can be like the mother's hormones, like if there's maybe a drop in progesterone, if her hormonal levels are not correct, then it's a fault on the mother's side. But most of the miscarriages are like a chromosomal abnormality. But still, it's like, is this now the start of a bigger issue that I need to look into? Um, Also, am I going to have a healthy pregnancy next? Like, what is going to happen. I know this was like the thoughts that I had. Is it like, am I going to have a healthy pregnancy next? Did I do something wrong? And the truth is, no, I did not. Um, but I was scared because you hear these stories of people that go years, and sometimes they don't get pregnant, sometimes they do, but they lose the baby early. Maybe the woman and the husband, their genes are not adaptable. There's other types of issues that we can maybe get into, that causes this abnormalities, or the body is actually fighting off the developing fetus. So it's just scary. And I remember, like, when I had my miscarriage, there was the week when I went to get my 12-week scan. It was just the day before. And what's weird is a woman has this sixth sense. Like, I was talking to my husband, I'm like, I'm so thankful that tomorrow is my scan, because I just feel something is off. I didn't really want to vocalize it, but I just felt something is not okay. And I don't know, you just think the doctor can do anything, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, what is the doctor going to do? There's like, I don't think there's really any intervention if there's not, like, on the mother's side, if the progesterone levels are fine, or it's just like a waiting game to see if this fetus will grow. So anyway, my scan was scheduled for the next day, but in the night I woke up, just like on that movie What to Expect When You're Expecting, with Anna Kendrick wakes up and she's like, oh, I'm bleeding. That's exactly like how it happened. I like woke up like, oh, I'm bleeding. And I looked and there was not like a lot of blood, but so there was now a little bit of blood on the bed. I'm like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? Because we live kind of like in a rural area, small farm town. And it's in the middle of the night. I think it was like 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning. So it's now dark. And I'm like, am I going to wake my husband? Like, it's like these thoughts are going very quickly in your head. Because at first I was like, no, I'm just going to pretend it's not happening. But then I'm like, I can't pretend it's not happening. What if I can save this baby? And no, I need to like wake him. We need to go to the hospital that's in town. I don't know what to do. So we went. The nurse that was there, first you need to like say, okay, on medical aid or not, who's your doctor? It's only like 2 doctors in that town. So I'm like, just like, this is my doctor. And now you're feeling bad because I like grew up in that town, and then I'm like, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. Now I'm going to wake this person up. And I don't know, there was this part of me that didn't want to be an inconvenience, but I'm like, this is scary. And then I wasn't bleeding anymore, so the nurse was kind of like, did not understand. Because it wasn't like the word miscarriage wasn't there at that moment. It was just like I was bleeding. And got an injection, probably just to keep myself a little bit calm. Probably also a progesterone injection in case my progesterone levels were dropping or whatever. Then the next time my doctor came, she did like an ultrasound. And there was like this exchange that we had Cuban doctors also. So it was an older lady. It was just cool because you can hear her accent. But now what was kind of scary was when they did the scan, it's not like this very fancy sonars that was in that hospital, because remember, it's like a rural hospital. And it kind of looked like the uterus, but there was like nothing there. And the Cuban doctor was just like, there's no heartbeat. I'm trying to make the accent, but anyway. So I was just like lying there and trying to stay calm. I'm like, no, it can't be. something looks weird on the scan. And my doctor was just like, no, it seems like the sonar is broken. So then we had to go to her office. She also had a sonar, but also again, this sonar I think was like maybe 20 years old. It's very tiny also, but luckily it works. That's how we looked at the fetus a few weeks prior. But it's very grainy and small, but you can see like the heartbeat. So we went there and there was a heartbeat, but the baby was not looking how a baby should look at 12 weeks. At 12 weeks, a baby should look kind of like a little human, kind of like this little alien. But like a human, you can see feet, you can see hands, you can see elbows, you can see the head. And my baby was just looking like still a little peanut, but there was still a heartbeat. So it was like the doctor is not going to say like, this is not going to work. She just said she doesn't think this is a viable pregnancy. The fetus is actually getting smaller. So there's still a heartbeat, but if I wanted to end the pregnancy, she could give me medication. And so I was just like, and then she's kind of like described what a miscarriage is because my husband was there. He did not know like what a miscarriage is and what's like going to happen, what's going to be expelled from your body. And now this is a very traumatic thing that I'm going through, but now I have to like sit there and also explain to my husband very like academically what's going to happen. But it's like very emotional toll at that point. So I can't remember, everything happened so quickly, but it still felt so long. Then I had to be on bed rest. I had to be on bed rest for a while to see if that would help. Because I said I'm not going to terminate. It was very like weird and difficult because now your first pregnancy and no one has gone through it in my immediate circle, has not gone through something like that before. So they didn't really know what to say. And I said, well, no, I'm not going to take it, but it was very emotional. So then the doctor said I can go on bed rest and we can see how things progress from there. I think I was on bed rest for maybe 2 or 3 days. And then it was kind of like, because you're scared to go to the bathroom, you are just trying everything to keep this little peanut growing. But nothing, I don't know. Each time I would go to the bathroom, I was bleeding, so I was scared. And then sometimes, because now you're Googling, because you don't have anything to do. And my grandmother told the story of when she was pregnant with her first child. This is also the first time that I heard that. They didn't talk about it, but she said also that she was bleeding, heavily bleeding. So they also thought that they were going to lose their first little baby. And then later on in the pregnancy, she just stopped bleeding. So this was kind of like the knowledge that I had, and a lot now you're Googling, you're reading the same stories, you're kind of getting hopeful, but then you're also in the back of my mind, I saw the sonar. I saw it. It's not looking great. So I think I was in bed rest for 2 or 3 days. Then the one night, I can't remember if it was the Saturday night, I was laying in bed, Googling, looking at series, whatever, and then I just like felt so sick. Like if I had a stomach bug, but I was not throwing up or anything, and nothing was coming out. I just felt this intense cramps, and I was getting a fever, and I was like sweating. And in my body, I'm just thinking, okay, this is now it. I am losing the baby. But I was so in pain. I was just lying there and didn't really think clearly. And then the next day, when I woke up, you just have this feeling. I've heard other ladies also, they just feel there's no more life inside you. Like the baby that was in there, the fetus that was there that had a heartbeat, it does not have a heartbeat anymore. And that's how I felt. I just felt the heart stopped. And at that moment, I didn't really care. Like, I didn't have this feeling like, okay, I'm not going to wake anyone. I'm not going to not wake anyone. I need to call my doctor and say, okay, I can't wait to the next day because I think it was a Sunday. Um, like, I have a feeling the heart's not beating anymore. Help me. So went in for the scan. She checked. The heart was not beating anymore. Said, okay, so the next day, she advises us to come in for DNC. So a DNC is like a dilution and a curettage, or dilation and evacuation. It's like a surgical procedure that removes all the tissue inside the uterus, to make sure there's not any tissue or any fetal tissue that might like start to decompose and cause other issues that might cause like an infection, etc. So first I was like, because a lot of people don't want to get the dilation, a DNC. I think it's also, there's always like this risk that the uterus is going to get hurt or whatever. But now again, I didn't know a lot. I just knew maybe of one lady that had a miscarriage in our town, and then she got a DNC. So I'm like, okay, I think let's do it, because you can wait for that everything expels on its own, or you can go this route for the DNC. So at that moment, I didn't feel like I was okay enough to wait. I just wanted to maybe get the DNC, so that I know everything is out and I won't get an infection, etc. So I got medication that brought on contractions. Not like right away, because I thought I was going to. I like to walk with my dogs. And at that moment, you're like very emotional. I was like, you don't feel pregnant now anymore. You just feel this chubbiness. Just feel fat and ugh. So I wanted to start exercising like heavily again, kind of like punishing myself. Also, it's very sad because I was like, why did my body betray me? So I took this medication. We were at home. I walked with my dogs, and then it's contractions. It's like full blown contractions that it comes. First, I was like, okay, I'm going to walk through this. And then I couldn't. I just like bent over and I was just like in pain. I'm like, okay, no, I can't go on, because we're walking, it's like on a farm. So there's a hill. I wouldn't be able to come up this hill again from the pain. And I remember also, because now I was thinking, okay, and weirdly, I wanted to punish myself. So I wanted to feel this every contraction. But like, I'm also like thinking, why I felt the contractions much more intensely is like, when you're giving birth, you have this end goal. There's going to be a live baby. And I'm knowing that I'm going through this pain, but it's for nothing. So it's also kind of like this psychological thing that's happening. Anyway, then I didn't want to take pain medication. And you can only take pain medication for like, I think at 10, because I was going through this surgical procedure. And you can't drink or eat anything. So I only had until 10. And I think it was like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So later, the pain was too intense. I took medication to get me through, hopefully, the night until 10. Everything is most of it was kind of like a blur. I can remember we are driving to the hospital and it was still like, the pain was still strong. Still hoping, because they do a sonar before the DNC just to make sure. And there was still nothing, but you still hope like, oh, please, maybe we would see a heartbeat, but we didn't. I got the DNC, and I asked my doctor, when can I start trying again? When can I like get pregnant again? She's like, and you can see the compassion in her eyes. She was just like, she would really like for me to wait maybe 9 months or a year because now my uterus has expanded. I was now 3 months pregnant. My body needs time to heal. The uterus needs to expand, or now to deflate, decrease, back. And I was just like, I was telling her, okay, but in my heart sank. Felt like it dropped out of my body. But then I was like, okay. So I got my DSC was done. They said I had to wait. So even though, like, after a surgical procedure, it's kind of like after any birth, you have to wait like 6 weeks before being like intimate again, because it can increase the risk of infection. So anyway, we had to wait anyway for that, but I was not ready to wait for like a year. But at the end of that, I got pregnant again almost a year after I miscarried. It was 11 months after that I got pregnant again. But that whole 11 months was emotionally, I was in emotional hell. And well, you can also think of like your hormones are now plummeting, and you've been through this emotional experience. So looking back, I can clearly see I was in a depression. And I have OCD, so I'm like obsessing. I'm obsessively Googling how long after you have a miscarriage can you get pregnant again. It's stuff like that. And testing my body temperature, testing all those things. So it was hectic. And then when I got pregnant again, you are scared that you're going to lose this baby. In every twinge, every symptom that you don't feel it's scary. And when you go to the bathroom, you are just like, please don't let me see blood or whatever, because it's just so scary. So I didn't really take care of my mental health um after that miscarriage. I was in a really dark place, and I kind of took that with my next pregnancy, and then after that postpartum period. I can see clearly how depressed I was for basically almost 2 to 3 years after my child was born. I was like, now looking back, I was clearly in postpartum depression. I was clearly having that. So I would just like want to encourage, like, after you had your miscarriage, make sure you see someone, you get the right medication to help you through this difficult time. Because I can remember I was scared because the doctor, you can't really see anything at like 8 or 9 weeks pregnant. You see the little heartbeat, but it really looks just like a peanut. And the doctor was just telling me maybe she thinks it kind of looked like the limbs did not split. So I was thinking it was some of my antidepressant medication, because I have a tendency, or I am depressed. I get this highs, not bipolar, but yes, I have depression. And so I was taking medication, but then I didn't take it anymore. So I don't know if that, I was scared that that could have caused it, but no, it doesn't cause any chromosomal abnormalities. But in my head, I was like, my hormones were crazy. I was not thinking very straight. So I didn't take my medication when after my miscarriage, and with my second pregnancy, I didn't take it, and I can clearly see the, like, looking back now, I I was in a very dark hole. So with my third pregnancy, I really looked after my mental well-being. So me and my psychiatrist, we had a game plan how I was going to take care of myself. I also ate like very, I want to say like clean, but it was also because you are now very you're like nauseous. So I just ate like fresh fruits, salads, etc. So I was really eating very well. and I was taking my medication. So that is how also when I look back at my postpartum period with my third pregnancy, it was so much better than the previous two. Obviously, my first pregnancy was now a miscarriage, so my mental well-being was now taking a very large dip there. But with my second pregnancy, I was really in a dark hole. So that's why with my third one, I was really looking after myself and taking the necessary medication to help me so that I can be the best mother and not feel this deep depression. But yes, so the message I just want to convey is that if you are going through a miscarriage, really look after your mental well-being so that you are prepared for your next pregnancy. And I know that a person, when you go through a miscarriage, it's you feel like there's now going to be a light at the end of the tunnel because people give you this advice, oh, you can just get pregnant again, or luckily you could get pregnant. So you can clearly see who has gone through a miscarriage and who hasn't. Because that was the comments that I got. And I know this one lady, she had two children, and then her third, or when she wanted to have a third one, I think she was a bit older, so she had hormonal issues. That was not correct. So I think our progesterone levels dipped. That's why she kept losing. She lost two pregnancies. So she gave me this Bible verse, and it's just, I couldn't remember the Bible verse because I didn't want to start crying. But when she was talking to me, you can see the compassion and like, I've been where you are and I understand. And I just felt loved from her. So people who haven't been through it, they don't know the heartache that goes with a miscarriage, and it is very difficult. So when you're going through something like that, make sure you prioritize your mental well-being, to give yourself time or get yourself on the correct medication, correct health plan, eating correct, taking baths, giving yourself time to grieve, take to the bed, like lie there, write letters, scream, exercise to get yourself as healthy as you can, because it takes like an emotional and physical toll on your body that I didn't grasp when I was learning about miscarriages and reading about it and hearing someone else maybe go through it, because it's just like people think, okay, that person went through a miscarriage and now they're back at work or they're back at church. It's not so lightly. It's going through it. It's like it's a very heavy and painful process, physically and mentally.